there, everyone. Welcome to another Artist Chat with Music for Your Inbox. My name is Jennifer Biwarsi, and today we're going to be chatting with visual artist Esther Ruiz about the mail art she made for this month's art pairing called Wells 32. So I'm going to get her invited, and then we will start our conversation.
Hey there. Perfect.
Hey.
Welcome. Thanks so much
Thanks
for
for having me.
Esther. Oh, yeah. We're thrilled, and we're so excited to have your art on our series and to get to talk to you about it today. So I was wondering if we could start with just talking about like your background as an artist. How did you kind of get started, and how did you come to the current practice you're working at right now?
Sure. I've always been interested in art since a very young age, and I went to school for art, and I started what is basically part of the series there. And when I moved to New York, I worked at a neon shop, a commercial neon shop, and that's how I got into using neon. And then,
and we're in your studio now, right? So
we are, yeah.
Very cool. So can you talk about some of those tools and what it's like to work with neon, because it's pretty unique? And
yeah, I don't actually bend it here. When I was working at the neon shop, I would bend it there and bring it home with me. And now I get it made elsewhere. But I guess,
very cool.
I mean, I don't know. Oh, transformer is this is what powers them, and these are what I use. But yeah, tons of tools for making everything else. And then behind me is the work that's in on the flyer.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And in the photo for the mail art, they're from an installation shot, and so they're placed across from one another, and so that's the mirror image that we see in
here, I'll show it so people can kind of get, you have this like infinite well.
Right.
And this piece is called Well 32, if I got my Roman numerals correct.
Right, yes.
I think XXXII,
yeah.
Or II. And so it's a part of the series, and all of these pieces on the wall are part of this Well series.
Right. That's right.
Beautiful.
And there's more in boxes here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a ton.
Beautiful. Well, I got excited about the neon. I like cut you off, but I know. You were saying you went to art school and you've learned how to work with like neon and everything. But I know you did some work and you did some study in like geology. Is that right too?
Yeah, I studied at Rhodes, and so it's a small liberal arts college. So I had to take a science credit, and I chose geology, and that's sort of like where my interest in stones and minerals came from. And in earlier works, I was using a lot of stones, and I'm going to be using them in a new project I have coming up. But yeah, I love the way that they tell time in a way. Almost like a tree records history through its rings. It's similar in stones and minerals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you use kind of a lot of your work that I've seen feels very like elemental, like how you have these kind of like very clear uses of materials like cement, the neon lights, crystals, rocks, paint. But I think it could be, and like really like clear shapes like arches and triangles and squares. And I think on the one hand, when you just kind of glance, you're like, oh, beautiful materials and shapes, but you have this kind of whole, very rich, like emotional and imagined, and like these pieces are a lot more about like memories, imagines, and emotions. So can you talk about that process of like drawing these feelings into these kind of elemental and concrete shapes, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, when I first started making the concrete series, these type ones, that's the series I first started working on when I moved to New York. And when I first started let's start over. When I first started making them, I wanted to make core samples, and that failed miserably. I have one over there somewhere, but then I liked only the top portion of what I was making with the core samples. And so, yeah, when I pour them, I think it's a very meditative process. Like I sit and I hold them, and I think all of that goes into each one. And they do start out with, some of them start out with drawings and imagined landscapes. But I do feel like those in particular are really meditative practices. And I think that all the thoughts that sit with those pieces are in the work. That's how I think of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that totally does. Yeah, there is I feel a sense of meditation for sure when I'm looking at your work. So that really resonates. And you mentioned landscapes, and I know landscapes and sci-fi are a big influence on your work. Can you talk some about that?
I love the idea of thinking about what the sunset looks like on other planets, and that's kind of where that the arc comes from for sure. And sci-fi. I just love science fiction and the way that they portray. I mean, Star Wars, of course, is my favorite. But yeah, the scene where he's on Tatooine and he like looks off into the sunset and there are two suns. I love that visual as like a starting point for imagining other foreign landscapes.
Yeah, so the Wells series specifically, well, first of all, I find it really interesting. Like when I think of landscapes and I look at your work, I especially find it interesting to think of the Wells series because they have like this sense of a well, of a pool, because they're reflective. Here, I'll show this again. But also there's a kind of landscape in them, especially the way you installed this, where they face each other, where there's this kind of portal inward. But can you talk about some of the inspirations behind the Wells series in particular?
Yeah, so that it's funny. It's kind of embarrassing, actually. I was not ending, but I wanted to transition into a new series of work, and I kind of felt stuck and was in a rut. And so I had this sketchbook that I just like painted the cover white, and I'll flip through it. It's kind of embarrassing.
Cool for you to share this. No, it's so cool.
It's really embarrassing. It's really embarrassing, but
I love it.
I don't know how to. I'm like really bad at holding this.
There's a little.
Hang on one sec. Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, should I flip it?
Yeah, that might be easier for you.
How do I do that?
There's.
No, oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, it's really embarrassing, but I just just drew these very, very simple shapes.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking, but I just left, I just did this all day. And so the very first one came from one of these drawings. And then as I go through I did this simple gesture. And then as I was doing that, I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to make a set of neon. So that it grew into this whole series. And so then I just was going back to this sketchbook. It's nothing like that. Oh, here's the one from art.
Oh, here, I'll hold it.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
That is so cool.
Simple. Yeah, it's really funny. But yeah, so that's all. I mean, at the time I was working in a neon shop, and I was like kind of frustrated with some of the things that, maybe frustrated is the wrong word, but I wanted to make my own neon sign too. So I actually made these stands, and I don't know if you know much about neon signs.
I do not.
When
you can pretend I know nothing.
Okay. Well, they don't normally come with these standoffs. Are usually like mass produced, and I have some here. I'll show you. They're like very ugly, I think. Hard to see, but they're very, I thought, ugly. So I made my own, and now that's all I use. So I make them in different colors, but this is my favorite combination, and the way that the colors reflect. But yeah. So I made something that I thought was really, really simple, and then like these small modifications and what, like how a neon sign is made really interests me because it's not really something that you would necessarily think about when making a neon sign. So, yeah.
And I'm noticing more now that the plexiglass mirror surface it's a colored surface,
right,
too, right?
Yeah. So it's really dusty in here, but yeah, the plexi is actually blue, and then the neon's pink. It's hard to see here, but and then the reflection's purple. So yeah, I really liked the way, like a very simple move. I don't know. Makes like I don't know I don't know how to describe it, but
yeah,
I love like the simplicity in it and how it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, no, I really I really relate to that. Like, this is gonna sound like a really dumb comparison, but I'm a big board game person, and my favorite board games are the ones with really with like really simple rules, but then the gameplay is like all complex and rich because the rules make all these cool situations.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
Yeah, so it's not like that it's simple in outcome, but that the basic materials or the basic instructions or rules are just clear,
right?
And then you get to like experience all that variety and richness from that clarity.
Yeah,
so
I
very much relate.
Yeah, putting limitations on yourself too, I think, is a good way to I don't know, learn something new about yourself and about the process.
Absolutely. Well, and I also wanted to talk, so I wanted to give a little background into this kind of collaboration. So you're our mail art for the month. I keep pulling up because I love it so much. It's so vibrant and beautiful. And your art is paired with these two films about light, and kind of broadly the month is about light, but not in a like, this is bright way, but more like there's a real richness to the way things reflect and refract. And I wanted to ask if you would talk a little bit about your experience of seeing Christina's film the first time, because it really resonated with you.
Right.
The film Possessed by Light.
Yeah, I love that video. I love the way it changes, and in a similar way, I feel like some of the shapes are seem like organic material, and I liked that pairing. Like I feel like a lot of the imagery she's using resonates with me in terms of like science and organic shapes, but also she's pairing them with like these bright neon colors, which I thought was just so funny. There's one still blue, it's a blue background with what looks like just like round organic shapes that are set like really bright colors, and it's just like, well, it makes total sense that we would be paired. I loved all that imagery, and then it also fades into like very like almost like a plaid pattern, and I just like the simplicity of the pattern and shapes that she uses. And I mean, and the music is also like the way that it pairs with the music. It's just really good.
We were so thrilled like how much it resonated with you, because it is really exciting to hear how like the two together draw out each other's like sci-fi technology pieces of things, and certainly this idea of kind of like alien landscapes between the two comes out a lot, so that's really exciting. So that was thrilling to like email you and be like, what do you think? And you're like,
totally. I really loved it. I mean, I listened to it over and over again and watched it several times, so I really liked it.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share that I might have missed about your practice or what you're working on next? Anything like that?
I am working on actually, I cleaned up a lot in here for you because it was quite a mess yesterday. Yeah, I'm getting ready for a couple shows, so that's why things are boxed up. I'm actually having things picked up on Thursday, so I've actually a lot of work to do today. I have a show coming up in Richmond, Virginia at Reynolds. It's a 2-person show. It opens in March. And then I have a solo show in April that opens at Chart in New York. So I'm quite busy.
Awesome. Well, let us know. We'll share it so people can visit the pieces in person. And
that'd be great.
Yeah, we're so thankful. And someone else has commented, your studio looks amazing. It does. It's so, thank you for letting us like peek behind.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
And
we'll send out if people buy a ticket by the 15th, we'll pop one of these in the mail for you, and you'll get to experience Wells 32 by Esther Ruiz, with Possessed by Light by Christina Lord, the film, and also another film, A Long Postlude by Julie Herndon. So we hope you guys enjoy, and thank you again so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.